We on? All right, I guess we're on here. This is the Old Cow Report. And, see, my rusty trusty sidekick Fred Stafford's with me here, and I got 5 after on my watch. Fred, what do you got?
Yeah, almost 5 after.
Well, these clocks are really messed up around here tonight.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
We probably lost half of our audience, Fred. We'll have to have you go out and get them back. Anyway, this is the Cow Report. I'm your host, Shecky Formel, and with me is my rusty trusty sidekick, Fred Stafford. And oh boy, have we got a lot to talk about tonight, Freddie.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, tonight is October the 9th, Fred.
Yes, Monday.
And what is October?
1995.
What is October in your calendar, Fred?
Well, it is, the governor declared this to be Decency Month.
He did.
He did, yes.
Well, have you been decent?
You betcha.
All right. Just checking there. Okay. Well, Fred, on this date in history, 1994, October the 9th, Ross Perot announced that he was going to run for president.
He did.
And that was in 1994, on this date. What state was he from?
Texas.
Huh?
T-A-X-T-S, Texas.
Texas.
Yeah, isn't he from the state of Texas?
No, Fred,
I thought it was
they don't understand that joke
Dallas,
up north.
Texas.
They don't understand that joke up north here. Okay, well, as you can see, we're back here on the range here to one of our last nice days before winter sets in, and these are the cows that we're going to try and move over to the new studio. And they've really served us well down here. Many a cows, Freddie. Many a cows that came through this place over the years.
Right. Yeah.
Now, if this is the first time you've tuned in, Fred is down here Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. He gives tours of the studio. So come on down and ask for Fred, and he'll show you where the Cow Report is produced, and he'll show you where Shecky Formel keeps all his uniforms and everything, and all of the props. And that's 9 to 5, isn't it, Fred?
No.
All right.
I am not here 9 to 5.
Well, what time are you here?
Well, I just came down here a few minutes ago, about 15 to 20 minutes ago.
Okay, Fred. Well, I just got the latest Anti-Defamation League special report, the militia movement in America. It just came in the mail today.
It did.
And it tells about all the states that the militias are active in. Looks like it gives just about all of them. Isn't that ironic, Fred, how they are very quick to rush in and tell about what the militias are up to. But what about some of these radical groups like Louis Farrakhan, his 10,000 armed black men?
I guess they don't mind them.
They'll mind them when they get shot between the eyes.
They condone it.
What about this guy down there in Milwaukee that says he's going to start a race riot this year?
I haven't heard anything.
When the summer of 95 he was supposed to start?
Yeah.
Maybe he's already started his guerrilla warfare down there.
No, I don't think so.
What was his name again?
I don't remember.
McGee.
McGee, you're right.
Used to be on the city council down there in Milwaukee. He threatened to start a race war in 1995. Okay, well anyway, Fred, this lists just about every state in the Union where militias are supposedly active. Since we're right on the border between Minnesota and Wisconsin, we'll just read what they have to say about the ones in this area.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Illinois is pretty close. Let's read that one first. The Lombard-based organization called the Illinois Minutemen describes itself as a militia and has echoed the anti-government themes of militia groups elsewhere. The group, formed in mid-January by Glen Ellen resident Mike Bafundo, now claims members from Cook, DuPage, Will, Kane, and McHenry counties. It meets twice a month at a Lombard bowling alley. Members do not wear uniforms or carry weapons, but they are reportedly considering a paramilitary training session with the Michigan militia. Another organization, the Southern Illinois Patriot League, held a rally on April 22nd in Carbondale to protest the state's honoring gun control advocate James Brady. Signs at the rally, which drew 150 participants, described Brady and his wife as diabolical misfits and other equated agents of the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms with Nazi stormtroopers. Protesters were also invited to wipe their feet on a United Nations flag. Organizers of the rally included Glad Hall, Scott Winkard, and Ken Potter. And let's see, does Iowa touch part of Wisconsin? Yeah, well,
Iowa? Yeah, you betcha.
all right, the Iowa groups. Militia groups have formed in Iowa, but there is little evidence of their size and influence. Paul Stauffer, an Air Force veteran living in Cedar Rapids and the self-described national contact for the Iowa militia, has claimed that his organization operates in 35 counties. He has not offered specific membership figures. He contends that Iowa militia members are concerned with intelligence gathering activities and that the group maintains contacts with militia leaders across the country. A May 3, 1995 Cedar Rapids meeting organized by Stauffer found many among the audience of 60 parroting the fevered anti-government conspiracy theories of the militia movement. And Freddie boy, Michigan. The Northern Michigan Regional Militia, also known as the Michigan Militia, has attracted national attention in the wake of the April 19th bombing of the federal building in Oklahoma City. Group leaders have said that Terry Nichols, a suspect in the Oklahoma blast, attended several of its meetings last year and that on at least one occasion he brought another suspect, Timothy McVeigh. Additionally, federal agents searching the Decker, Michigan farm of Terry Nichols' brother James, who was initially considered a material witness in the bombing case, uncovered a number of documents relating to the Michigan militia. Despite negative publicity since the Oklahoma City bombing, the militia movement in Michigan has enjoyed some continued success in its recruiting. Minnesota. There are several small militia groups sprinkled across Minnesota. These include the Arrowhead Regional Militia in Duluth, the St. Cloud-based Metro Militia, and the Red Pine Regional Militia, located in the Minneapolis area. And let's see, Freddie. About the only one left, I think, would be Wisconsin. That would be from this area. The Militia of Wisconsin, also known as Freeman Militia of Wisconsin, is an amalgam of three small organizations, one under the leadership of Don Treelor in Waupaca County, one in Vernon County under Will Holzai, and a third near Slinger. Unified around the pro-gun, anti-government, conspiracy-driven philosophies that characterize other militia groups, they meet regularly and claim to engage in weapons training and maneuvers. Treelor, speaking of the group's field exercises, says, "We are preparing men for battle." Holsey has boasted of 10,000 members statewide, a plainly exaggerated claim. Ernie Bruceabardis III of Slinger has developed a video for recruits. While the militia claims to be open to any man 18 or older, the video reportedly states that only professing Christians can become officers. So there you have it, Fred. The militia movement is still around and on the move. And, of course, I hear a lot of, in the metropolitan areas now, they're forming these neighborhood watch organizations instead of calling them militias. And that way they're getting around some of the laws in the country that don't allow groups to form. So have you joined any of the militias yet, Fred?
Nope. Have you?
Nope. I didn't know there was one around this area. Okay. Well, Freddie, I can see why some of these militias are forming. Just recently in the October 3rd issue of the Leader Telegram, Gary, Indiana, had to call in 50 state troopers.
Yes.
And I lived there one summer, Fred, in East Chicago, Indiana, right outside of Gary.
Yeah.
Worked in building a factory there. The union labor, $4.40 an hour back in the 60s, that was big money, Fred.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that and 50 cents will buy you a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Back then, people lived on that. As a matter of fact, most people were making about $2 an hour, and the labor unions were getting about twice as much. But Gary, Indiana, the home of Michael Jackson and his family, has just deteriorated to the point where they've got to call in 50 armed state troopers to patrol the streets. And if that doesn't work, they're thinking about bringing in the National Guard. Now, this was brought in by the governor of Indiana and welcomed by the mayor, the black mayor, Thomas Barnes, of Gary, was welcomed these 50 troopers in. And I'll tell you, Fred, some of these cities are turning into nothing but hellholes.
Yes, that's rather
Lawlessness,
true.
and the courts are revolving doors, in one day and out the next, back on the street to deal their drugs. And we haven't seen the end of it, Fred. We'll see more than 50 troops brought into some of these metropolitan areas before it gets any better. We'll probably see the prison population in the United States double before it starts to slack off. Okay, Freddie, we better take a call here. But first, you got a little short one there, or are you just kind of here reading the paper tonight?
Well, I got something here, yes. I got presidential candidate Pat Buchanan, incidentally. If you went to the rally in September 22nd in Montvale, New Jersey, you'd have to drive through the rain. And he pointed out in several areas it differs from the four Republican candidates who are seeking president's nomination, and that was Bob Dole, Phil Gramm, Richard Lugar, and Alan Specter, the four senators that voted to confirm pro-abortion Ruth Bader Ginsburg and pro-abortion Stephen Breyer for positions on the U.S. Supreme Court, which is rather interesting.
So what's all that mean?
Well, they're the ones who should have voted against that, and if they are pro-life. They claim they're pro-life. Don't you think so?
Well, you would think so, Fred, but nowadays you don't know what's going on. Okay, go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, this is the common man.
It is.
Hello.
Yes. How you doing, guys?
All right.
Huh.
By the way, I noticed another name here, Checky Formel. My goodness, you look a lot like Chuck Lee, but are you kind of like the twin brother, or what's still there?
Well, he's no longer on the program, and I've taken over here because of Freddie's condition. They needed somebody a little bit stronger to run the show in here. So
Yeah, I get it. Plus Chuck is running for Congress, etc. I get it. Okay. Seeing that little glove in front of you makes me think. What about our situation? How it came out with our with Mr. Simpson there? What do you think here?
well, they're having the big Million Man March on Washington, and only black men are allowed, no white men or any kind of women or children. And of course, Ben Chavis is one of the leaders of that. He's a convicted murderer, and we got O.J. Simpson. He's going to get in there, and he, in my book, is a convicted murderer. And so that's the kind of people you're going to have that are leading that march. Another one out there is Marion Barry. Got caught red-handed snorting crack cocaine, and now he's threatening to blackmail some of his own members of his city council if they don't vote his way on things. So
And it probably
we got these kind of people leading this. We got the Louis Farrakhan, who has a 10,000 armed black army in Chicago that says that they're going to kill all the Jews and all the whites if they ever get power in this country. He's the leader of this Million Man March.
Yeah.
So
I know.
it doesn't bother. It doesn't. It just stands to reason that OJ would jump in and do the march. But if they would have took this glove into consideration, we took it out there, we mailed it out there, and then we took it out there and tried to give it to Judge Ito. But he was too busy trying to stay in front of the camera, so we couldn't get him to accept the glove as evidence. So I said I would wear it until the end of the trial, and Fred wanted it, and I said, well, we'll just put it on the set here. And and Fred, it'll just be one of the things that Fred will show the people when they come in here between
No,
9 and 5,
I'm
Monday
not going to
through
be
Friday.
here to show the people anything. Checky Formel is going to be the one that'll have to show it to them.
Well, I personally kind of figured that O.J. did it myself. The only thing is that the biggest problem with prosecution nowadays is that it's kind of like with your old Perry Mason thing there. Unless you can find out who really did it, you know, it's a 9 out of 10 that the defendant's going to go free, whether he's guilty or not. And that's sometimes maybe there needs to be an adjustment there. They always say, well, innocent until proven guilty. I kind of think maybe there ought to be at least 50% burden of proof on both sides. I think maybe that's the only solution. I've been trying to think of one here for quite a while. I even mentioned it on my own show, and I said, well, it seems like many guilty people getting away here lately. So besides that, and I did, you know, and I having.
Well, money has a lot to do with innocence or guilt in this country, and who you know, and if you know the judge, and if you can see, there was conjugal visits during that trial, and even though the jurors were sequestered, they had private visits with their husbands and wives, and it wouldn't have been I mean, who's going to stop the husband to come in and whisper to his wife about O.J. Being on the stand and saying he's innocent? That was all, I mean, you could whisper it, and the guards were not allowed to stay in the room as the husband and wives were having sex, so they were left to themselves, and the husbands were bringing in all the news of the outside world and what's going on that the jurors were not able to see in the trial because there was a total blackout of any media. So all the media that they heard was from their husbands and wives and family that would come in on these conjugal visits. So that's where the leaks were. That's where they got to the jurors. They used to call it jury tampering. But nowadays it's just one of those things. 1 out of 3 black people are in prison or have been in prison or on parole. In the black community, murder is not that big of a deal. Everybody knows somebody that's killed somebody or they've had somebody killed. They got a relative that's serving time for some kind of murder, manslaughter, or whatever. So to them, murder is not that big of a deal. So for them to let O.J. off, really, it doesn't bother them as much as perhaps the more the Anglo-Saxons in this country.
No. I was going to say, though, it was kind of interesting because I caught this on one of the other channels here. It wasn't CNN either, but I caught this here on one on, it was all places, ESPN. They had a report. They had, she was a daughter, not one of the jurors, a daughter of a juror, and she wouldn't give a real name either. They had a fake name up there with quotes on it. And she says, well, actually, my mother actually thought that he had really done it, but she voted the other way because she didn't think that the prosecution had proved well enough that he did do it. I thought, well, that's kind of a dumb way to do it, even though she thinks he already did it. And I thought, what the heck kind of sense is that? That's, you know, there's even some people that, in this case, a juror who thinks that he actually did it decides to vote the other way anyway.
Well, the verdict's in, and that's just one of the times where money. I mean, that was you talk about dream teams. They had the dream team of lawyers. Some of the most famous lawyers in the country were on the case, and you know, if they hadn't won, then people would have started saying that they weren't that good a lawyer. So they had to pull out all the stops, do whatever they had to do. I'm not saying here on TV that they bribed the jury, but if there was a leak and they were able to get to those jurors, it would have been through the conjugal visits.
Yeah, well, it could have been. You know, like I said, I was pretty impressed actually with the prosecution group, and I gotta admit, if I'd have been sitting on the jury, I would have voted guilty. But the thing is that you know, I sat there and I took a look at Cochran. I said, this guy's nothing but a showboater anyway. That's all he's doing.
Well, you know, when all else fails, Cochran brought out the race card and threw that in there.
Yeah.
And so, and that's one of the last things that the jurors thought about as they went into deliberations. Is so they're always talking about race relations and stuff, and then he goes down into the gutter and digs out some sewage and throws it out there, and of course it's all right because he's black, and blacks can't be racist. Only white people can be
interesting
racist in this country.
That when you mentioned Calypso Louis Farrakhan earlier, because Cochran had a whole bunch of his bodyguards guarding him during most of the trial.
Yeah, I noticed some of them were around OJ after the trial too. You can tell them because they all have bow ties, a real clean cut, real short hair, but they always wear sports coats and bow ties.
That's quite a group.
But most of them are packing submachine guns too. So, but that one guy that they were guarding, somebody shot him in the legs. Well, he was worse than Louis Farrakhan. I mean, he was pointing at cameramen out in the audience and said, "One of these days, you whiteys won't even be able to come into a meeting like this. We'll kill you." So that guy was just an out-and-out black racist. I mean, there are such things as minorities that hate other people and hate white people. It's not a one-way street out there.
I think you could include that whole group in there. Really, you could probably include. You certainly can include Farrakhan. You could probably include Cochran and maybe a couple of them, maybe even O.J. himself.
Well, anyway, Farrakhan is the leader of this march, but now they're downplaying his significance. We broke it on this show over a year ago that he was going to have that march on Washington, but now you read the watered-down liberal press now, and they're playing it up like all these other groups are coming on board, and that Farrakhan's just a little significant nothing on the side. Well, Farrakhan was the driving force behind having the thing. So we'll see what happens. When he first called for this march, as a matter of fact, he called for 1 million armed black men to march on Washington.
Yeah.
So that's why some of the more conservative civil rights leaders have backed away from Farrakhan, and they're starting to claim it for their own march, and they're trying to downgrade any of that radical rhetoric.
The thing is, with the racism thing, even when it turns out, like with this Furman, and everything, and if he's a racist, he's a racist. But I mean, still, that doesn't necessarily mean that they should voted the verdict the way they did, unless somebody thinks that he framed O.J. Now maybe.
Well, see, O.J. was black.
We'll never know that unless they decide to pursue it.
O.J. is black, and the two victims were white. So Cochran's and his dream team's game plan was to shift the blame off of a black man killing two whites onto a white racist cop who everyone pretty much agrees is a white racist. He hates blacks.
Yeah.
And so that was the strategy, was to shift it over and get that black jury, 9 black jurors, 2 Mexicans, and 1 white person on the jury, to get them thinking about this racist cop, and never mind those 2 people that were killed sometime back in 1994.
No, it's kind of like Fred Goldman was up there, and some of the other ones. It's like Marsha Clark said the same thing. Don't throw the lies out the door and forget they existed. But obviously that's what the jury did in my book.
Yeah, well, comment. We got them backed up all the way to Chicago here, and so we better take some more calls. And Fred says that your show has been canceled, so we'll see you around on the streets. Okay, Freddie, what do you got there?
Buchanan, September 22nd, didn't mention the network commentators that praised his Houston speech after it was given. Buchanan did not mention the polling data which showed George Bush trailing behind Bill Clinton by a wide margin after the speech, then polling which revealed that Bush had drawn close to a tie with Clinton.
Well, what's that got to do with now? This is 1995.
Well, Buchanan is running for the president again. And incidentally, I understand he did well in California recently in a poll out there.
Yeah, he won a straw poll. I think we mentioned it on the 2 o'clock show last week. He won over Dole and Graham and Wilson and the whole shooting match out there. He won the California Republican State Convention straw poll. So he's on the march. All right, well, Howard Phillips' latest issue, September 30th, 1995, Strategy Issues and Strategies Bulletin, wants to know, why has Barry Goldwater been so hostile to the Christian right? And he writes, my friend Lee Edwards, with whom I served in 1960 on the founding board of Young Americans for Freedom, may supply the answer in his new book, Goldwater, The Man Who Made a Revolution, published by Regnery. Edwards joined me and Congressman Bob Dornan at a seminar sponsored by the University of Delaware Young Americans for Freedom at Newark, commemorating the 35th anniversary of YAF's founding. YAF National Chairman John Pastore was on hand for the event on Saturday, September 16. Lee Edwards points out on page 420 and 421 of his book that Goldwater's wife was a founder of Planned Parenthood of Arizona in 1937 and continued to play a leadership role in the organization. She planned and hosted a major fundraising banquet in 1965 that honored birth control guru Margaret Sanger,
Who did this now?
a close personal friend.
Who did this?
The close personal friend of Barry Goldwater's wife was Margaret
Oh.
Sanger.
Uh-huh.
And she liked to put it, Planned Parenthood is my baby. So she was the founder of Planned Parenthood in Arizona back in 1937. When his daughter, Joanne, not yet 20 and still in school, became pregnant with the child of her intended husband and told her father that she did not want to have the child, Goldwater said, "I'll take care of it." He arranged for Joanne to fly back to Washington and have a then illegal abortion. It was 1955, in the converted dining room of a large three-story house in the suburbs. "I just want to prevent anyone from going through that," says Joanne Goldwater, who admits that all three of her daughters have had abortions. So that's where the rub is, Fred. Doesn't matter whether you're a liberal Democrat or a conservative Republican. The rub is, if you've got a relative that's had an abortion, you want to tend to rally around that relative. Whether it's right or wrong, you're going to back up your relatives that are involved in that deal. Okay, Freddie, we better take a call here. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hi there. I'd like to address my question to Fred, if I could.
Yes?
Right, there he is.
Okay.
He's still breathing.
Excuse me?
He's still breathing. He's not stuffed or anything. He's down here from 9 to 5 if you ever want to come
I
down.
am not down here 9 to 5 at all.
Well, what time are you down here then?
I got here a 8:45, and I'll be leaving here a few minutes after 9.
A few minutes after 9.
I
Okay.
mean, a few minutes after
Go ahead,
10.
caller.
Are you through?
Yeah.
Okay. I have an idea. Instead of having the cows for a background, why not allow local businesses to run advertising and take up our public space instead of just having cows? Or you could run community events and dates, or recycling drop-off stations, locations, and times that they're open.
Yeah, we could do something like that, but as far as
I mean, the cows they're not really.
yeah, as far as being a commercial, this is not a commercial station, so we have to deal in terms of nonprofit. So you can't like put Johnny's gas station up on the board there, because then you're advertising a local business, and then all 10,000 local businesses want to be on public access. But it's,
What does Fred's hat say?
I don't know what he's got on there. What do you got on your hat, Fred?
Go, Pat, go.
Is that Pat on Saturday Night
Pat
Live? Or?
Buchanan.
All right.
Isn't that a form of advertising?
I don't know. You'll have to ask Fred.
That's where I am, what I stand for, and that's why I'm wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, local citizens stand for their businesses that run the community too.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can write a letter to the direct. See, it's a non-profit. It's under a non-profit 501c3
I understand that.
non-profit status. So
Yeah.
if you go into commercialization, then they lose their
What
non-profit.
about community events? Or
Yeah, that could be done. We'll look into that, and I'll have Roy Rogers Hoff, whose mother was named after Hopalong Cassidy's daughter, and we'll have to have him look into it and see if he can scroll it on the back and all that. It's very highly technical.
I see. Yeah. Who is the cameraman to film these cows?
That was Roy Rogers Hoff's estranged daughter.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Are they filmed from around here?
I think that's on a farm down in Pasadena.
Pasadena.
Yeah, south of, what's Pasadena south of, Fred? Los Angeles?
No, I think it's north, isn't it? North?
All right. Yeah, those are some,
All the way from California.
well, they're Wisconsin cows that were shipped out to California, and this is kind of a study to see how they would do out there. And then they didn't do so good, so we brought them back, and the cows you're seeing right behind me now were Wisconsin cows that were sent to California and brought back. But That's actual cows back there. This is the
That's the real thing.
this is the studio back here, and
Oh,
this is where Fred takes tours and stuff, and
I don't take any tours.
each one of those cows he's got a name. What's that one there, Fred? That white one. What do you name that one?
Whitey.
Okay, that's Whitey. I told you he had names for him. But see, all this is going to be moved now because the basement of the library is going to be changed into some kind of funeral parlor or something. I don't know what exactly is going on, but they're going to be embalming librarians down here or
Is
something.
that right?
Yeah.
Are they going to still have you on the air?
Well, we'll be moving the pasture. We got to dig up all this dirt and everything and move it over to the new studios here in a couple of weeks. So there's no telling when we're going to move everything. You know, as you can see, there's a lot of dirt back there to move. And
Yeah, that'd be quite a project.
see, the studio's underground, 1 acre there. That's artificial lighting there for the cows. You have to have lighting so that the grass will grow and the cows will produce white milk.
Are you looking through rose-colored glasses?
Well, actually, because of the artificial lighting, it's very bright in here.
Oh, so you are?
So actually, they're orange color.
Orange?
Uh-huh.
Is that a hat you're wearing?
No, I'm sure I can see the lighting isn't here too good tonight, but actually,
A bad toupee, but
I've wore hats on my show for years, and so some of the younger ladies called up and said, "Well, we want to see your hair." So last few shows I've been just going natural.
I see. All natural, huh?
Yep.
And that's not O.J. Simpson's glove up there? Are you promoting O.J. Simpson?
No, this is the actual glove that we found in the bushes there when we were on a tour out there in California, and we tried to give it to Judge Ito, and he wouldn't even talk to us. So
Withholding evidence.
we're just gonna,
You have to be careful with that, Chuck.
yeah. Well, thanks for calling, and we'll talk to you again real soon. If you want to come down here on a tour, Fred will be here for the next few weeks.
I'm not
Before we
going to
move.
be here for any tour.
Does he take care of the cows?
Yes, he does. What's that black one, Fred? What'd you name that one?
Blackie.
All right, there you have it.
He has very interesting names for the cows.
I know. Well, he's been around here a long time.
Yeah, with his experience, he can sure come up with the names.
Yep. Now, Fred, what's that other white one back there then?
Whitey number 2.
Okay.
Oh, I knew he was going to say that.
Yeah, Fred's pretty predictable. When you get to be 95, you know, there's not much.
What does he read?
Well, he reads The Wanderer.
That's a
An
Catholic
appropriate-
newspaper
appropriate
printed
title,
in
isn't
St.
it?
Paul.
The Wanderer.
Oh, The Wanderer.
That's
I also
appropriate,
read
isn't it?
the New American Magazine printed in Appleton.
All right. Okay.
Intellectual Wanderer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it tells you what's going on in our country that you don't read locally in the press or in the magazines.
Actually, it's an old line conservative Catholic nursepaper. It's been around how many years, Fred?
I don't know, but
Over 100.
It's been around a long time.
Conservative Catholic?
Yeah, out of St. Paul or Minneapolis. Isn't it?
Right.
I'll be damned.
Well, okay. Well, thanks a lot then, and we'll have you call in again here some other time. All right, Freddie. We got some, you know, Fred, just when you thought the Leader Telegram was going to snap out of it and quit advertising all them cigarettes and stuff. Roy, you got that other camera there? Off. Oh, I guess not. Well, anyway, this top.
There it is.
Okay, this top. Wait a minute. Here, wait a minute. Got to get this down here. There, we'll get that. We'll get it down there. The first article there says, smoking and cancer linked to 1950. Now that was an article in the Sunday, October 1st, 1995, Leader Telegram, page 14A. So that boy, I said to myself, boy, the Leader Telegram is wising up. They're going to quit pushing that tobacco poison, Fred. So then I flip over to 3B in the same paper, and right at the bottom there's an ad right there for Swisher Sweets. I'm telling you, Fred, a lot of people inhale them things.
Mm-hmm.
Swisher Sweets don't say anything about caution this smoking tobacco is hazardous to your health and cause cancer and all those other things. It just shows a guy in his truck and his dog, taste, satisfaction, quality, and it's not a cigarette. Swisher Sweets, little cigars. No warning on there at all about lip cancer or lung cancer or anything, Fred,
Mm-hmm.
or pregnancy problems. So the Lear Telegram is still making the quick buck on this advertising. Can't have it both ways. Either you're against it or you're for it.
Wasn't there something saying that girls who are pregnant, quite a few of them are smoking when during the pregnancy?
Yeah, and some of the ones that think they're men are smoking them Swisher Sweets.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Chalk.
Hello.
I just like to say that, like, OJ's over with, so you should just get the fuck on.
Okay, Freddie. There's another prime example of what English has done, the English teachers have done to upgrade and uplift English in the Eau Claire community. You notice that? What do you got there, Freddie? You still on the same article?
In the September 10th Philadelphia Inquirer article, which stated that Bob Dole has spoken up for gay rights. This article reported that Dole has championed food stamps, defended affirmative action, and spoke up for gay rights.
Okay, Freddie.
That's rather interesting.
You're still on the same article there.
Well, that was the same article. There's quite a few different things in there.
All right, now this one's on Orrin Hatch, is Janet Reno's ringmaster. This comes out of the latest Issues and Strategies Bulletin. That peace has broken out in the judicial selection realm can in large part be attributed to the administration's relationship with Senator Orrin Hatch, R. of Utah, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Most on my side have been very good about it, Hatch says of his fellow Republicans, but there are always a few who don't want to give anything to this administration, who want to slow the process down, who want to deny the administration the chance to nominate judges. Hatch is eager to stress that he has not joined these political games, and the numbers seem to bear him out. Under Hatch's chairmanship, it has taken Clinton nominees an average of 71 days to be confirmed. In contrast, when the Democrats controlled the Senate, it took Clinton nominees 80 days to be confirmed, and it took President Bush's nominees 99 days to slog through the Democratic-controlled Senate. Presidential politics will force all this cooperation to a shuddering halt soon enough. Republican senators, hoping their party will retake the White House in November of '96, have already started asking Hatch to delay nominations to the federal courts in their states. And by next spring, if the past is any guide, all confirmations will cease. But for now, things are humming along. That's according to Orrin Hatch, Fred.
Yeah.
Of course, Orrin is considered kind of a liberal, isn't he?
Well, I thought he was on the conservative side.
All right. Well, I think we got another call here, Fred. And so we better take that. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
It's time to relax. You know what that means.
Go ahead.
It's time to relax. You know what that means.
Must be a recording, Fred. Okay, let's see. What do you got there now, Freddie? Are you still on the same article?
No, I'm not on the same article.
All right, what do you got?
I haven't got anything open at the present time.
All right, I got
I
some
could.
here. North American currency unions. Are Americans willing to swap their dollars for a proposed North American eagle currency? That's the question, Fred. I don't think you can go much further with trade integration without finding that using separate currencies is less and less helpful, declares Dr. George M. von Furstenberg, an economics professor at Indiana University. Von Furstenberg admits that currency union is an idea which only a small number of academics advocate formally, but the eagle is needed to eliminate currency instability and standardize commercial transactions under the NAFTA agreement, Fred. So we're going to go to a Canadian, United States, and Mexican eagle currency if they get their way. You know how unstable Mexico is. It
Yeah.
seems like that would really destabilizes the dollar if we tie ourselves to that
Yes.
economy. Of course, you know there's a new $100 bill coming right around the curve there.
Yeah.
January or February, it looks like it'll be here. Okay, Freddie, what did you think about this baseball deal down there? You're a
What
Brewers fan.
Well, I'm not.
Well,
I'm a Yankee fan.
one of the stalwarts of the conservative movement in Wisconsin from Red Granite, Bob
Yes.
Welch, voted
did?
against that.
I know that.
And the liberal Republican from Eau Claire, Dave Zine, voted for it.
Yes.
And it was passed.
Yes.
So now, all the big shots, all the millionaires are going to get to be able to rent these $80,000 a year or whatever they are skyboxes, Fred.
Yes.
How can anyone afford to pay $80,000 a year just to have a little box out of the wind there
I don't know.
with hot and cold running water for 80 grand a year? Doesn't that seem wasteful?
Yes.
But if Bud Selig's team is losing roughly $8 million a year, how are a handful of skyboxes going to get him out of the red?
I don't know.
Well, I know one thing, Fred. I know one thing. Taxpayers of Wisconsin got took for the whole shooting match except for about $40 million that Selig is getting private financing on. The rest of the $250 million is coming out of the taxpayers.
Yes. I noticed that Rob Krybeck voted against it too.
Yes, because he knows that the economy up here is not out of the woods yet. Even though the manufacturing is picked up, Fred, and there's a lot of $5 and $5.50 an hour jobs and $4.50 and $4.75 an hour jobs, the farmers, the family farmers, are still hurting bad, Fred.
I know.
And the economy that's kind of built around the farming economy is not doing the greatest either.
I noticed that when I was a district manager for the National Federation of Independent Business, and I worked for them for almost 13 and a half years, that each year the farm economy went down. Farm businesses closed, went bankrupt, etc.
Yeah, it's a tough business, Freddie. But until they get the milk prices straightened out and up or whatever, and they keep that foreign milk out of the country, so that because you can't compete against that cheap labor, Fred.
Yes.
All right, what do you got there? You got some kind of
I
announcement?
got an alert, and it says Senate hearings for SB 254, Amendment to the State Obscenity Law, October 18th, 1995, Wednesday, and I believe it's at 9 o'clock in the morning, although it doesn't say here. And the same opposition who in '88 fought to stop Wisconsin from having an obscenity law is expected to be at the hearing. They were responsible for an 8-year delay in the passage of an obscenity law and forcing this subject into the original 88 bill as a price for passing it into law. And that's that the district attorney may only prosecute an obscenity violation if he or she has obtained approval of the Attorney General. Senate 254 removed that from the current law. Currently, obscene material and performances are determined based upon 3-part test. One of the requirements involves the fact that the material or performances show sexual conduct in a patently offensive way. This bill specifies that the sexual conduct may be either actual or simulated.
Okay.
So in other words, it's going to change it. And for those who are interested in getting pornography out of their communities, should be down in Madison on the 18th to testify against that or for that bill.
Some of these R-rated videos and stuff are looking pretty rough, Fred.
I
Let
know
alone the X-rated stuff.
I know.
There's one out there now called The Professional. It's about a professional hitman who has a relationship with a 13-year-old girl, and they're glorifying this in this movie. It can be rented at all your video stores here in town, and then they wonder why 13-year-old girls disappear with 40-year-old men.
Mm-hmm.
That's about how old this hitman was. It was with her in the movie, and you can tell it's obvious. I've done enough editing over the last 10 years. It's obvious that they had to edit out some parts just to get it to where they could show it in the United States, Fred. But it's basically an affair with a 40-year-old man and a 13-year-old girl. And it's more than just father-daughter type relationship. It shows her, in one scene, it shows her jumping out of a bed that she's laid in, slept in the bed with this guy overnight. It shows her pulling up her pants, Fred.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all been cut out. You have to do a freeze frame to see exactly what they're up to. But it's definitely soft pornography.
Softcore.
Yeah.
Well, it's too bad, and as the country goes further down the tube, morally, we can thank the spread of pornography for this.
Well, if you go to the grocery store, Fred, look that up on the shelf and read the box, because there's all kinds of glorious praises from some pretty famous critics on this thing,
Mm-hmm.
on this certain movie. So it's like they're taking one more step into that unknown there to see how far they can stretch the limits and how much they can push and get away with. But they've been doing that ever since about 1940, haven't they, Fred? A little
Mm-hmm.
bit more each year on the TV screen, and a little bit more on the movies every year. A little, push it out there a little farther, see how much more you can get away with. But at one time in this country, Fred, didn't they have censors that stopped some of that stuff?
Well, they rated gave them a rating, and it told you whether or not it was fit to be seen.
I see where the Catholic Church is going back to that again.
Yes.
All right, we better take some calls here, Fred. We got them lined up all the way back to East Dubuque, Iowa.
Yeah, I have a question here. You kind of touched on it earlier. What do you think of Dave Zien voting for the stadium? You think he sold out? You think basically some, big money interests pretty much bought his vote on that one?
I think Dave has a lot of heavy hitters down in Milwaukee that lean on him. And of course, whenever the governor says jump, Dave says how far. So when the governor says I want this, Dave pretty much will deliver, at least his vote. But Dave has a lot of the people that influence him are from down in the southeast part of the state. And it's unfortunate because he's shifting to the left because he's running for Congress, and he thinks he's got to shift to the left to get elected. And he could just shift so far that he'll fall right out of his right-wing chair.
Well, I mean, don't you do a show with him?
No.
You don't do Capitol Report with him anymore?
No, that was Chuck Lee. I'm Shecky Formel.
Oh, all right. Well, do you know Zien at all or not personally?
I don't. I know Lee used to know him, and Freddie knows him, but Shecky Formel has never met the guy. But you can see just from hearing him on TV and radio that he's shifting to the left, trying to cater to, I don't know if he's catering to conservative Democrats or...
Well, is he being informed that people don't like this, or is Chuck Lee letting him know we don't like this?
I don't think that you can get through his cordon there anymore. You can't get through the ceiling or the roof or the wall or whatever it is. They've got a pretty much you can't get to him anymore like you used to.
Zien? Pretty hard to get in touch with him?
Yeah. Usually if he is, he's got his briefcase with him. He'll take something through you, but it goes into the briefcase, and 5 years later, you'll open up a closet somewhere, and there it is. It's never been even looked at.
I think he's mutating into a professional politician then.
Well, it's nothing new. It happens to everyone.
Right. Well, do you think conservatives can really trust him now, or?
Well, I don't think he's gone that far, but you can see him slipping to the left a little bit. And he's not the old two-fisted Dave Zien that was going to take on the liberal world all by himself anymore. He's become a compromiser. And like I say, when Thompson breathes down his neck and tells him, I want this passed, Dave's going to do what Thompson tells him to. He's always been that way. And Thompson is kind of shifting to the left, too. And
he's just terrible.
He's becoming a big spender. And I mean, to tell you, Thompson's been in close to 8 years now. If your taxes went down or up. And with all these new things that they're throwing at us, like this $250 million Brewers boondoggle, I'm sure the taxes can't go anywhere but up higher.
Well, that's going to keep costing us for years because they can't make enough money down there. It isn't a big enough city to support a baseball team. That's the real problem.
Well, you got white flight out of there because you go into certain parts of that town now. It's like going into old Calcutta, India or something. I mean, you don't see a white face for miles. It's getting terrible down in there. Once you lose that white middle-class tax base, what do you got left? You got a bunch of people on welfare and food stamps and minimum wage jobs. So they can't keep a city that size afloat. It'll end up being another Gary, Indiana in 20 years.
But I mean, the state is on the hook for this stadium now. We're going to have to
Right.
keep bailing them out every few years.
What we've done is we've handed Bud Selig a $250 million package, and he only had to come up with a little over about 15% of it himself. The rest of it's the taxpayers on the hook for. Now, he could turn around and sell the whole shooting match and get out of town
Right.
and be a wealthy man.
But I don't know who'd buy it. The money loser.
I say
You can't
They-
make any money there.
they should have put some strings on that saying, hey, if you bail out and try and sell this, the state can move in and grab the franchise and call it the Wisconsin Brewers.
Right. Well, that's going to be the most extravagant stadium in the country. I mean, I don't think any other city has a retractable dome or anything like that.
It's always been that the booze lobbyists and stuff down there want that so they can wine and dine all the people from all over the world when they come to Milwaukee they're trying to sell their booze to everybody, and you got the major corporate people down there. That's what that's all about. They're the ones that get the skyboxes. How many other people can afford, what is it, $80,000 a year to rent them? Who else can afford it?
Right. Well, now, what do you think of Plombon? He voted against it.
Well, that was good of him because he knows that there's some people up in his neck of the woods that are hurting. I mean, it sets a very dangerous precedent because now...
Zine is the only Eau Claire legislator who voted for it. Moen, Krybeck, and Plombon all voted no. So I'm wondering, can we really trust him?
Klausing voted no, too.
Klausing voted no, right? A lot of Democrats voted no.
Yeah.
And didn't...
And so does Zukowski. He
Right.
reaches,
How
he
about,
reaches in the eastern.
Rod Moen?
Rod Moen voted no.
Well, like I say, Dave is beholden to the governor, and Dave is first a Marine, and when the commander-in-chief says, Dave, jump, Dave says, how far? That's what it boils down to. He basically turned his back on his constituency up here, but like I say, he's looking at the bigger picture. He's got his eye on Washington, and so Dave is going to do some things that people are not happy with anymore.
I guess
It's
not.
unfortunate.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Freddie. Now, did you find that thing you want to talk about there?
Well, I see the New American Magazine, October 16th issue, has Whitewater washout. And Mr. Clinton is pondering a sinking of the ship of state. And it goes on to tell of some of the things that have been brought out in the hearings.
Fred, they don't call him Slick Willie for nothing. He slips and slides through everything. And besides that, Fred, they're gearing us up for 25,000 troops in Bosnia. Now, Clinton's going to get us mired in there, and it's just in time for the elections. Those troops will never get in and out before a year from now. There's no way you can move 25,000 troops and equipment into a country, a hilly mountainous country like Bosnia, and then get them back out before the November elections. So he wins either way, Fred. Once the troops are in there, the people rally around the president, his polls go up. If there's trouble in there, 50 or 200 Americans get killed or wounded in there, they'll still rally around the president because that's the way it is. It's always been that way in times of war. But we better take another call here in a minute, Fred. But first, Bob Dole and Bill Clinton, Dwayne Andreas' Washington team. Michael Fumento, reports in Investors Business Daily that Archer's Daniel Midland, that's out of Decatur, Illinois, is one of the biggest manufacturers of soybean and corn byproducts in the world, is at the heart of a far bigger ripoff than the current price-fixing scandal. Ethanol subsidies, 55% of which end up in ADM's pockets, cost taxpayers millions of dollars each year. The alternative fuel is worthless, but its friends include President Clinton and Senator Bob Dole. Ethanol is alcohol distilled from corn. It's mixed with gasoline to make gasohol. Gasohol gets a federal tax credit of 5.4 cents a gallon, Fred. That adds up to an estimated $770 million a year. It also gets many state tax breaks. Now, Andreessen, and not only is he working on Dole, but he's worked on Tommy Thompson, he's worked on Clinton. He throws his money around. I think he's either in the Tri-Island Commission or CFR. He's one of the international insiders. But without subsidies, no one would use gasohol. It hurts mileage, and it's much more costly than regular gas. And its environmental benefits, direct and indirect, are negligible at best. Now, Fred, I've always thought that that was good for the economy, but this is saying totally the opposite in the Investor's Business Daily, 9/14/95, page A2. Ethanol is touted as cleaner than gasoline, but the evidence is just as strong that it's dirtier. At least one study by the Sierra Research of Sacramento, California, suggests it increases smog and ground-level ozone. The other main excuse for ethanol subsidies is that they prop up corn prices, but this is even thinner than the usual excuse for farm supports. First, it would be far cheaper just to subsidize corn farmers directly rather than funnel cash through ADM. ADM's Washington Power keeps the ethanol program alive anyway. Just since 1991, ADM, its PACs, and CEO Duane Andreas and his family have contributed over $1.2 million to the Republican Party and its candidates and over $1 million to the Democrats. No one has benefited from this more than Bob Dole. To date, ADM has contributed over $85,000 to Dole's various campaign bids. Of course, Clinton gets a big hunk of that too, Freddie. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hello, Chuck.
Hello.
I would like to make a comment on, let's see, I believe it was 4 callers ago, the man that didn't like the cows. First of all, I think that's a very, very effective backdrop you got there on your chroma key. I think is very suitable for a show called The Cow Report, and I find him interesting to look at. Number 2, my comment to that caller would be that look at his TV guide. The name of this station is Public Access. And that means it's not a commercial station. It's not for the purpose of selling his tires or his cars or his hamburgers or anything. If he wants to have a TV show, he can have one as long as he's not selling a product.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very, very good thing. And if you turn public access into a commercial station, it's going to be just like everything else on TV. We're going to have to sit through every local yokel hawking everything from oil changes to submarine sandwiches, you know. And
Yeah.
I get told it's nice to have a station where it's just for the public good.
Well, basically, with public broadcasting is looking at advertising now, and they do
I know.
advertising at the beginning and the end of their shows anyway. They call them contributors, but
Yeah.
when ADM and all them are advertising, that's a commercial that millions of
You
people.
hear their name, and it's
Yeah.
in your mind, even if you don't pay attention. It's in your mind. You
Well-
know the name.
So public access will basically be the only national forum out there where commercials are kept out after PBS throws in the towel and starts raking in the big advertising dollars.
Well, hang in there, and don't be selling the airtime. That airtime belongs to everybody. It doesn't belong to any sponsor.
Okay.
One thing more, please. I got a question for Fred.
Yes.
I keep seeing these ads for your tours from 9 to 5, and where are your tours?
I don't, that's a lie, but this gentleman sitting on my right calls himself Chucky Formel. I don't give tours here.
Well, how come he saw it advertised then?
Well, you advertise it. That's
Oh,
what
if I
he saw.
dressed like that, I'd use an alias, too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for calling in. Then.
Joe.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So,
Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, fellas. How's it going tonight? Jackie, you're having a little sip of coffee. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
On a lighter note, guys, aside from the government stuff, how about the Packer game yesterday? Any comments on that?
Well, as usual, they couldn't pull it out, and I kind of like the Vikings too. The Vikings won, and the Packers.
Oh, hey, I got a Vikings fan right next to me at my house here.
And
I
the
can't say
Vikings
that.
lost. The Vikings won, and the Packers lost. But I'm for both teams as long as they're not playing each other. I tend to lean a little bit to the Vikings when they're playing the Packers. Other than that,
You're a Bears fan, though.
I like to see them both play. Yeah, I used to be a Bears fan too.
All right. Hey, guys, by the way, what's the name of those two cows in the background?
Fred, what's the name of that big black one there?
I don't know.
The one. What about the one next to it? That's black and white.
I don't know.
That isn't Blackie and Whitey, is it?
Might be.
Just wondering, that last guy asked you, about the tours. Maybe if I come on that tour, I find out what them cows' names are there.
Well, Fred will be down here from 9 to 5.
I will not
Monday
be
through
here.
Friday. But now we got to say goodbye because we're at the top of the hour, and we appreciate your calls, and we'll see you again right here next Monday at 2 p.m. on the Cow Report. I've been your host, Shecky Formel, and with me, Fred,
And,
the Undisputed Truth Staffer.
and you listen to this station at 6 o'clock on Friday night or Thursday nights, the 12th, and listen to the Conservative Corner.
Pretty good show tonight. Yeah. Yeah, Fred does slow the show down a lot. Yeah. But, did you hear that O.J. Simpson's gonna get remarried?
Yes.
Yeah, he wants to take another stab at it.
Huh.
Yeah. But,
Is that joke floating around Eau Claire right now?
yeah.
Huh.
You hear when, O.J. left, the court, he asked Judge Ito if he could have his gloves back?
He did.
Yeah.
Huh.
What do you think about the verdict there, Chuck?
It's pretty bogus.
Is he bogus? You think he did it?
Yeah.
So did I.
Any blind idiot can tell.
Yeah. I think that, the 8 black jurors had a lot to do with it.
Well, they've been downtrodden for years, so when they get a chance to get somebody off, especially the black, they're gonna do it. It's ingrained in them because they've been picked on and hung, murdered. They kill each other like crazy deers. It's not that big a deal. They just want to see a black hero to then get off. They don't want to sit in prison the rest of the time. on? All right, I guess we're on here. This is the old cow report. And, see, Rusty Trusty sidekick Fred Stafford's with me here, and I got 5 after on my watch. Fred, what do you got?
Yeah, almost 5 after.
Well, these clocks are really messed up around here tonight.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
We probably lost half of our audience, Fred. We'll have to have you go out and get them back. Anyway, this is the cow report. I'm your host, Shecky Formel, and with me is my rusty trusty sidekick, Fred Stafford. And boy, oh boy, have we got a lot to talk about tonight, Freddie.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, tonight is October the 9th, Fred.
Yes, Monday.
And what is October?
1995.
What is October in your calendar, Fred?
Well, it is, the governor declared this to be decency month.
He did.
He did, yes.
Well, have you been decent?
You betcha.
All right. Just checking.